Hey guys, so today I have some time and I wanted to compare 6 different power meters and show you guys how different they are, and then we'll find out. So I'm going to tell you guys how I'm going to do this. I'll show you the setup of the different bikes and the different power meters, and then I'll get going, and then once we have the data, I'll show you guys how different they are and see what we could conclude. So I'm going to use, so the way I'm going to do that is I have 6 different bikes on with 6 different power meters, and I'm gonna run them each on a Wahoo Kicker, which is a smart trainer. For those who don't know, the Wahoo Kicker essentially it gives a power that could be programmed and controlled. So I made a program on the computer which looks like this. You might not be able to see. So essentially, I'm gonna be sampling for about a minute at different powers. So I'm going to be doing that at 74 watt, 150 watt, 200, 250, 280, 310, and 370. I'm not going too high because I want to have a window for a minute of sampling, so it's not like very jumpy. So I have that program made on the computer, and now I sent it over to the iPad, which essentially will be the remote for the Wahoo Kicker. So the iPad will be controlling the Wahoo Kicker, and then I'll have the Garmin running connected to the power meter, and I'll be sampling. I'll be doing laps. I'll be sampling for a minute at different powers. And since I'm doing it 6 times, I'm not going over 370 because I want to do that for a minute without struggling. And then, so the way that's gonna happen, I'm gonna warm up on the first bike on the Wahoo. I'm gonna do a spin down, which is like a calibration, which is like the way the kicker calibrates. And then I'll put the 6 different bikes, and I chose, so I have 2 TT bikes and a cross bike, so the gearing is pretty different, but I have a couple cassettes, and I figured out what gearing I want to have, so I'll have a gear ratio of 3.5. So I could achieve that on the TT bike and on the cross bike. Like, it shouldn't matter, but just in case you don't believe me or in case you don't believe the Wahoo, we don't want it to be way faster on one bike and then a lot slower on one bike. So every bike will have the same gear ratio. So yeah, so I have different cassettes to do that, and then we'll see what happens. So I'm about to start. That's the Wahoo Kicker. Plugged in, and then that's how it is. So I'm on the gear I need to be, and the first bike, which is my bike, I'll be looking at the Quarq Riken by SRAM. So that's what it is. I have my little setup for the iPad. So I'm gonna do the warm up, and then I'll run the program and take the sampled intervals with Garmin. That's not full. Right now, I just did my brother's bike, which is a Dura-Ace crank, but the left side is a Stages, the first generation for Ultegra, and then they happen to match. So the first generation is a little bigger, and that's about it. So now I did the Quarq Riken and the Stages generation 1, and this is gonna be the Power2Max Classic. You see the bigger battery pack. So on this bike, so we have the SRAM Rival crank, and the left side is a Stage Generation 2, so that's a newer unit. You can see the body's a little, it's kind of hard to tell, the body's a little slimmer than the previous one. So now I'm almost done, and here we have my cross bike, which is an FSA crank and the newer generation stage arm. And since I have a 38, that's why I'm going in the 11 in the back. Quarq Cinco Saturn. This is a big ring of 55, so I paired it with the 16 to compensate for the same gear. Here is my data. So I'm going to explain what I did. So it's Excel. I have the name of the bike and the power meter that I used. Then the number in watts of what the program from Trainer Road is telling the kicker what to do, and then here I have what the kicker actually made. So that was recorded via the iPad. Now I have the Garmin linked to the power meter on each bike. So in that case, it would be the first generation of stages. And then I'm comparing the difference between these two numbers, and then I'm seeing that difference as a percentage. And overall, here I have the average of the difference in percentage. And then we can notice that like the difference on the first row, 12, 13, 15, 21 watt, is pretty big at a low power. So I took that out, and now I have the same chart just without the 74 watt. It seems to be too low of a number for the power meters to function well. So now that's what it is now. So I'm going to comment on the stages, on the 3 stages first. So I was surprised to see that the older unit, the Generation 1, did its best. It's on point. It's very, very, very close to what the kicker has. So that was really impressive. These two are the same generation, just on that one's on a FSA crank, that one's on a SRAM Rival crank. So it was surprising to see that big of a difference. See here, that one is really good. Seems like this one is off at a lower power. At 150, it's telling me it's 20 watt off. The higher you go, just dead on, and then at the end it's like 1 watt off. So that's still really good. This unit was a little funny because it seems like it's kind of off, and then not. It's pretty consistent here, so it's kind of a weird pattern. It's like not consistently high. So 20 watt off, 14, 19, then it's decently close, then 64 watt, which is a little upsetting. So this unit has like 9% off overall. So that's the way it is. Now I'm gonna go over the Quarqs, which actually are my personal bikes. So I have the Riken, which is a newer unit, and the older Cinco. Pretty happy here. Lower number is kind of off, and then on the high end, it seems to be reading a little high for the Riken, and then the Cinco is about the same thing. Pretty happy to see how consistent they are, because I wasn't sure. It's like a TT bike on a older unit, different gearing. I was wondering like, do they really track the same? But like 309 for 312, and here I have 310 for 312. So it's like very close. Like together, they're very close to each other. So that was kind of nice to see. Lastly, I have the Look Power2Max Classic. Solid unit. Yeah, it seems like it's very solid across all the power. It seems to be reading a little high at the end. And yeah, so here's the data. If you have any questions, comment below. Feel free to share that video to anyone who wants to know about power meters or wants to decide on what to do. I'll make videos of each power meter itself, and I'll review them a little deeper. But seems like overall, that's how they measure up to a controlled environment, which is in my case the Wahoo kicker. So yeah, every power meter was calibrated before it's run. The Wahoo kicker, I rode it 20 minutes and then did a spin down and then got going. So yeah, hope you enjoyed.